All right, let's segue to the next one. This clip actually came from an OSS member, so shout out to the OSS. Some of you guys sent me some good stuff.
Restaurants to mechanic shops to real estate firms use TikTok to grow. Together they employ more. Yes.
Howdy, Mr. Kirk. How are you doing today? Good. All right, a couple things. I'll make it really quick. So first thing I disagree with you on, Mr. Kirk, is, I don't know, there's this viral video going around on the internet. Some guy's talking to you about 9/11, and your rebuttal to that was, oh, well, they found their passports. Do you know who did the attacks? Like, do you believe Al-Qaeda did that?
I did not say the passports for the record, but
Okay, well,
the passports admit.
Yeah, the other guy mentioned the passports, and he said that the passport was found like undestroyed, like blocks away from the World Trade Center, I think is what he said. It was the guy that said I served. If you guys remember, we reacted to him. It's like a white dude, with like a sweater.
Really are the most suspicious part of the entire situation, but that doesn't necessarily mean the Israeli government planned the attack, right?
So who do you attribute to Building 7 just like collapsing into its own
It's a
footprint?
really good question. I don't know. And in fact, you're allowed to be the position of not knowing. That was always my position. So I'm batting down ulterior theories, and you could still not know. So,
is it bad to like consider perhaps the Israeli government was
okay,
behind
so
it?
let's build that out. I want to. So in your favor, you would say that there were 5 Israelis that were by an eyewitness that were dancing when they
dancing
saw.
Israelis.
No, I mean that's the thing, right?
Oh my God! Never thought I'd see the day where Charlie Kirk would actually entertain and let someone finish a question when they start off with the fucking dancing Israelis. That's crazy, bro. Wow. We have come a long way, chat. Dude, if you talked about the dancing Israelis 2 years ago, nigga.
Welcome, punch!
Susan Wojcicki would have had you off fucking YouTube instantly, bro. Now it's Neil Mohan. He's a Jeep. But Susan Wojcicki, she was one of them. So, yeah.
They were questioned by the FBI and then sent back to Israel. They were then did a television interview where one of them said something a little bit questionable, but not quite a smoking gun.
We were sent there to document the event.
I got it. I'm giving you your argument, right? The event.
Yeah.
But I need now the burden of proof is on you or your general position. Were there planes that were hijacked? And if yes, who was flying those planes?
That's a false premise because aluminum airplanes cannot melt steel beams, Charlie.
Yeah,
That's
I got
like,
that. But
Al-Qaeda terrorists.
Back up. Did the planes hit the towers?
Sure.
Okay, but so planes were hijacked at some point.
For sure, yeah.
So whether for show or whether theatrics or whether for the actual intent, I need to know, in the theory that it was the Israeli government, who did the hijacking?
I don't think the hijacking is where we need to be looking. I think we
No, but you got to answer the question, though, because the burden of proof, that's really important, right? That's a fundamental part of the entire story, is that there were a couple planes that were hijacked in midair. And so how did that happen? Was it spontaneous? Was it planned? And if so, who would give up their life willingly to go fly a plane into a tower? Well, a radical Muslim would. So tell me who else would do that.
I got a poll up for you guys on YouTube. Go ahead and vote in there, man. Vote on the YouTubes for me, ninjas. Got a poll up there for you guys.
Well, I don't think we really know who hijacked the planes. The only thing we have to go off of is the passports that the FBI found on ground zero,
Respect.
right?
I think that is sus. I got it. But the point being is, no, the passports are the weirdest part of the whole thing.
Pretty weird.
That out of all, like everything gets incinerated and all of a sudden they find passports on the ground. I get it.
Yeah.
However, I don't think we're in a position to make like anywhere close to say, oh, it was the Israeli government because we found passports on the ground, right? I mean, if your whole argument is that there were 5 Israelis dancing.
That's not my whole argument.
Oh, then build out the whole argument.
Yeah, so leading up to this attack on the Twin Towers, are you familiar with the art group, the Israeli art group, I might add? They go by Gelatin. Have you heard of them?
No, were they one of the
Yeah, these were guys, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that stayed in the Twin Towers.
people in the towers that weren't there that day? Or
No, you're thinking of Larry Silverstein, who was on the record of saying, I had a compelling urge to own the buildings because he purchased the buildings very soon before the terror attacks. I'm referring to the Israeli...
Yeah, he bought them in July. So Larry Silverstein, for those of you that don't know, Larry Silverstein is a real estate investor. He's still alive to this day, matter of fact. Let me show you guys who this guy is. And if you're wondering... Every single time, chat. But yeah, he bought the buildings, guys, in July. okay? And he took a very unorthodox terrorism policy on the World Trade Center. Terrorist insurance.
Art group.
No, I don't
Sorry,
know
Charlie.
about that.
Yeah, so look it up. They go by Gelatin. You can find it in the archives on the internet. They had this art project. It was literally called the B Thing. B as in Bravo, the B Thing. Kind of suspicious, right? These people were given unfeathered access to both Twin Towers when even employees who clocked in and clocked out there every day did not have access to the building like these people did. They had harnesses. There's pictures of them because this was their art project, right? So it's very well documented. You can see them moving giant boxes into the towers. And their whole stunt, the reason they did that was to hang a mannequin, supposedly, out of one of the windows. I don't think it lines up. I think they spent a lot more
I'll
time
look
in
into
there.
it. I don't know about that.
Look into it. Look into it. Seriously.
Again, I'm open-minded for every theory. I think it's. Can you agree? Maybe not. That it's really damaging to say therefore it must be. And it was even more on top of it. The man in question in that video said it was the Jews. So not even that it was the Israeli government.
Well, I'm not saying that.
No,
but-
I'm not. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that's where my response was prompted. Like, come on.
Okay, this is very important what he said. Okay, so I told you guys this before. I'll say it again. When I cover 9/11, right, or I talk about certain things, I'm always very careful to say, and you guys can steal this from me if you guys want. Find yourself at a fucking dinner table and arguing with your fucking cousin about this shit. It's not that the Jews did 9/11. No, that's a
Redact.
concept, and you'll immediately be dismissed as a conspiracy theorist. What you need to say is that there's Israeli government fingerprints all over 9/11, and it definitely raises some questions, okay? Because what you're basically doing here is you're taking facts, utilizing a healthy level of skepticism, and you're asking a good question, because the reality is that these guys are supposed to be our greatest allies. How the fuck could they have foreknowledge of this going to happen and they didn't do anything, right? So whenever people say, oh, the Jays did 9/11, that's a very low IQ statement. Don't say that. Instead, say, look, you had these dancing Israelis that were captured celebrating the attack. You had these art students that were residing in the World Trade Center. We have Larry Silverstein, who went to work every single day, but for some odd reason on 9/11, he had a dermatology appointment all of a sudden. And he took a very unorthodox terrorism insurance policy a month and a half before the towers went down. World Trade Center Building 7 went down without being hit with a plane, right? The DEA wrote an internal memo about art students basically collecting information on government buildings. There was a group of people that got arrested out of Tennessee for document benefit fraud. And we ended up trying those people back to the World Trade Center. So when you put out all the evidence the way that I am, chat, even someone who is a super Israel supporter, if they have critical thinking skills and they're not a shill, they'll even say, okay, you're not saying the Jays did it, but you're giving factual evidence as to how could they not have known. And I think if you come at it from that perspective, it's a stronger argument. It makes sense. And you're not making a bold-faced accusation. Rather, you're giving all the facts and circumstances so that anyone that has a little bit of common sense is going to say, okay, with all the facts that you presented, I can see why people think that the Israelis were involved in 9/11. And I learned this, guys, when I was an agent. When you write your reports, right, police reports, whatever it may be, you don't sit there and say XYZ did XYZ. You like the goal here is like you just put what they told you or what you observed, and then let the reader come to that conclusion, right? So if I list out all the things I mentioned, Larry Silverstein, the dancing Israelis, the Israelis that were caught by DEA spying on buildings, the message that went out to all the Jewish people on 9/11 told them to evacuate the area, the fact that Building 7 went down without even being hit. Right? Who stood to benefit from this conflict? Well, what did 9/11 lead us to? It led us to wars all across the Middle East. It led to Operation Iraqi Freedom, right, which is a monumental fucking disaster. It got us in Afghanistan. It got us in fucking wars with the Taliban. Forever wars across the Middle East. Now ask yourself, on top of all the evidence I've given you, who stood to benefit the most from this war on terror? It was Israel. Something like 80% plus of Israel's oil comes from Iraq, chat. And then you talk about the clean break memo. See, when you put out all these pieces of evidence and you laid out just like I did with you guys, there's no way someone that's logically sound and a critical thinker won't say, you know what, there's some real credence to that. I'm going to look into that. But if you come in and you spark out, the Jizz did it, no one's going to take you seriously. And that's what they want, by the way. That's actually what they want. They want you to come in and spurg out. So, anyway, let's see how this guy handles this.
I hear you.
Now, got it. But you got to deal with the hijackers. You got to deal with Flight 93. And you also got to deal with one other component. Osama bin Laden took credit for it. And he blamed America's love of Israel for the reason that 9/11 happened. So
that was one of the many reasons, but there were other reasons as well.
Were we like working with bin Laden? Was it a CIA plant? Now we're getting like really deep, right?
Well, yeah, it can go pretty deep, and that's why
I'm asking, what is the theory? And
so the theory is, right, bin Laden was definitely an asset. There's multiple videos of him dancing to Katy Perry. There's pictures of him playing Counter-Strike on his computer.
That doesn't mean
cave,
he's
right?
Not everyone who plays Counter-Strike is a CIA asset, okay?
What kind of Al-Qaeda terrorist would do those kind of things? What kind of Al-Qaeda terrorist is westernized like that, you know?
We know from his hard drive he was a real sick puppy.
Definitely, no doubt. No doubt about that, Charlie.
So,
but I would encourage you to look into gelatin and the B thing.
I'll look into that.
Because I think that's more important than the planes, because a plane didn't hit Building 7, but it still collapsed.
You are correct, but we can agree planes did hit the two towers. Now, some people say there was only one plane or there weren't planes. That's complete BS.
Who's to say? Right?
No, it's BS. We know families that had people on those planes. The real manifest, real people you could talk to. It's not fake. That's legit. They were passing.
Yeah, so this is another reason where people fuck themselves up. They try to say that there weren't planes. That also is
redact.
There were absolutely planes, guys. Okay, and I remember I showed you guys, if you guys remember, I did a podcast with Ryan Dawson on this topic, and we showed graphic images, but we showed them nonetheless of people that were burned. Remember, guys, there was a guy that actually went to trial for this. Okay, I think his name was Zakawi. I'll show you. Let me pull him up real quick. There we go. Zacharias Masawi. Sorry. This is the guy that actually went to trial. The only person that got arrested for 9/11 and got prosecuted right here. This dude. So in his trial, they had to show, obviously, they showed the 9/11 a lot of photos of the victims burned in the cars. Sorry, in the car, excuse me, from the plane. So I have all the government exhibits on this. So when people sit there and say that there were no planes, that's fucking ridiculous. There was evidence taken at the scene that shows there absolutely were planes. So